Mm-hmm.
But he said, when a stranger come in, go ahead and read on.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord.
Now he said, if a stranger sojourn with you, and if he will keep the Passover unto the Lord, go ahead and read on.
Let all his males be circumcised.
Let all his males be circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And then let him come near and keep it.
And then let him come near and keep it. Go ahead and read.
And he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
So now, no uncircumcised person is supposed to eat of the Passover, whether you Israel or whether you stranger. Lord said that you could not partake in the gathering, but he said no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. And that still applies. Now, now he said about the Passover, should not a bone be broken, right?
Right.
Now let's go to John chapter 19, and we'll pick it up at verse 30. John 19, and we'll pick it up at verse 30. 19 and 30. We're still dealing with the Passover. Still dealing with when he was crucified. 19 and 30. Go ahead and read.
When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished.
Go ahead.
And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost.
In other words, he died. It is finished. He bowed his head, gave up the ghost. He died. Go ahead and read.
The Jews therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day.
Go ahead.
For that Sabbath day was a high Sabbath day.
Was a high what day. We read over in Mark earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the Jews therefore, because it was the preparation. He said the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath day, but that Sabbath day was a high day. Again, this is where you got your Good Friday from. You know, they looked at this, and they said, well, you know, Jesus died the day before the Sabbath day. And the Sabbath day is on Saturday. That lets you know they know when the Sabbath day is, too. Because when you put it to them, they say, well, we don't know what day the Sabbath day is. Yes, you do. You know how I know you know? I know you know because you got Good Friday. You looked at this and you said Jesus died the day before the Sabbath day. We know the Sabbath day is on Saturday. That must mean that he died on Friday. But you wasn't paying attention to the scripture. He rose, he said he had to be in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, and he had to rise at the end of the Sabbath day. How you going to be in the grave 3 days, 3 nights, rise at the end of the Sabbath day, and die the day before the Sabbath day? Unless you're dealing with 2 Sabbath days.
That's right.
He died the day before the high Sabbath day, which is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and he rose at the end of the weekly Sabbath day. That is how it happened. But that's where they got the Good Friday from. Go ahead and read some more.
Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken.
Now, you know, when they came to get the body, then they besought Pilate that their legs might be, because there were 2 other people that was crucified with Jesus. And then, you know, they besought Pilate, they came to get the body, they besought Pilate that their legs might be broken. Go ahead and read on.
And that they might be taken away.
Go ahead.
Then came the soldiers and break the legs of the first.
Then they came and they broke the legs of one of them that was crucified with him. Go ahead and read.
And of the other which was crucified with him.
And then they broke the legs of the other that was crucified with him. Go ahead and read.
But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs.
Then when they got to Jesus, they saw he was dead already, so they didn't break his leg. Why? Because he's a Passover lamb and couldn't a bone in the Passover be broken. Read some more.
But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water.
Go ahead.
And he that saw it bear record, and his record is true. And he knoweth that, he saith true, that ye might believe.
Go ahead.
For these things were done, that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken.
Bone in him could not be broken. Couldn't break a bone in the past. So now here we have it again, don't we? We still have a parallel here, don't we? You know, Jesus the Passover lamb, right?
Right.
And then a bone in the Passover lamb could not be broken, right?
That's right.
So you couldn't break a bone in Jesus either. Everything is lining up. You understand what I'm telling you? Let's go now to Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to pick it up this time at verse 14. We almost there, y'all. Exodus 12, and we'll pick it up at verse 14. 12 and 14. Now this is dealing with the Passover. Exodus 12, verse 14. 12 and 14. Okay, go ahead and read it.
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial.
Now he says this day. What day? This Passover day. It shall be for a memorial. You know what a memorial is? That is something to keep you in remembrance of something. You know, every year they hold a memorial to Martin Luther King. You know, to commemorate the day of his death. That is a memorial. It is something to keep you in remembrance of something, because he wants you to remember something here. Now, go ahead and finish that verse. Did you finish that verse?
No.
Go ahead and read.
And you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations.
How long?
Throughout your generations.
Well, this is still a generation, isn't it?
That's right.
So it's still supposed to be done.
That's right.
Even for how long? Go ahead and read.
You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever.
How long?
Forever.
It's still forever then, isn't it?
That's right.
So you still supposed to do the Passover. I ain't got to kill a lamb no more. Because when Jesus came and died, we don't kill lambs anymore. Because the book said when he was cut off in the middle of the week, he would cause sacrifice and oblation to see. But the book said that this Passover is to be done forever throughout your generations as a memorial. So now how are we going to do the Passover now? We're going to find out. Let's go to Luke chapter 22, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Luke chapter 22, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. You know, all this stuff was shadows. They were types of the real thing. That's why I read you that scripture that I read you in Colossians. You know, everybody read that to try and circumvent these things. But it was really telling you what these things was really pointing to. You know what the Sabbath day is really pointing to? It is pointing to the 1,000 years of peace when the Lord going to return and establish his kingdom on this earth for 1,000 years. And he said, if you overcome, I'm going to let you rule with me in that kingdom. I ain't going to take you to heaven. I'm going to let you sit with me on my throne, even as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. And he said, you will be ruling over the nation. That is what the 7-day Sabbath day is all about. When you throw it out, then you just thrown that out. When you throw away the Passover, you just thrown away the day of Jesus coming and dying for your sins. That's what you just threw away. But you listen to these people, and you let them tell you that Jesus nailed this stuff to the cross, and you ain't got to keep that stuff no more. And Jesus himself told you that the law is good as long as there is a heaven and earth. Last time I looked, we still had it, both of them. So the law is still good, then, isn't it?
That's right.
And he just told you, we just read over there in Exodus, where it said that the Passover, it is to be an ordinance forever, it said, didn't it?
That's right.
So what is forever?
Forever.
He didn't say it's to be an ordinance until Jesus come and die on the cross. It said it is to be an ordinance forever. And after Jesus died on the cross, and in fact, we're going to take the time to read that. After Jesus died on the cross, the people that walked around with him, they kept these high days. In fact, you know, when Jesus died, he died on the Passover. Then after the Passover, you know, he got the Feast of Unleavened Bread for 7 days. Then the next high day after that is the day of Pentecost. When Jesus died on the cross, he was in there 3 days, 3 nights. He came up. He walked around with his disciples for 40 days. Then he ascended back to the Father. A few days after he ascended back to the Father, you know what the people did? His disciples did? You know what they did? They kept Pentecost.